And welcome back. Joining us for our second conversation to talk to us about the police mentorship program is ACP Chestor Williams, who is representing the Eastern Division. He's the Eastern Division Commander. And we have Fermin Olivera, who is a social work lecturer at the University of Belize. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. So let's start with you, ACP. How did the idea of a police mentorship program come to be?
Well, the idea was conceived after I noticed that there were a number of young people who, either in schools or on the streets, who are demonstrating that that propensity for violence. And the number of young persons who were seen roaming the streets late at night when they could be at home doing homework or helping their parents in the home, and the number of at-risk youths that we see on south side of the city. So because of these different factors, myself and my management team, we sat down and we decided about something that we can do to assist these young people. Because when these young people are on the streets, that is where they're mostly recruited by the gangs. And some of them are from homes that are infested with gangs. So the potential is there for them to adapt that lifestyle. And we have seen the gang cycle. The gang cycle is from generation to generation. So we believe that through this mentorship program, we should be able to put some dent in the gang cycle to try and break it. So basically that was the reasons why, those were the reasons why we decided to come up with this mentorship program.
And I'm going to ask you to elaborate just a little bit more about the mechanics of the mentorship program, what it's going to entail, who does it apply to, what's the age range, where specifically in Southside, if there is a parameter for that.
I must say that I'm very happy that Mr. Olivera from the University of Belize decided to partner with us on this venture, and I will tell you that he have adopted this as if it is his, and that is very, very good, right? He's committed and dedicated to it. And we also have a meeting yesterday with Starla Bradley from the community rehab, and they too are on board, and they too are willing to do what they can to ensure that the program succeeds. So we have very good partnership in terms of how we will execute this this mentorship program. And to discuss more about what it will entail, I would rather Mr. Fermin do that, because he is the one who will facilitate most of it for us, right? Then I will just finish off with what CRD will be assisting us with.
Sure, do you want to pick up?
Okay, well, first of all, we were very happy for the opportunity. You know, UB was also in the process of strengthening our internship placements. So I knew about the mentoring for a while back. And I realized that they were all ready, so I contacted them. I made some arrangement at school, and the idea was to do an intervention, a group intervention with these young people that the police had selected to participate. So we got the all clear. So the mentorship includes the traditional ways of when we think about mentoring, bringing people, doing things together. And that is all fine. Specifically, what UB is committed to do is to facilitate a 15-week curriculum with these young people. The curriculum is a psycho-educational curriculum intended with clear objectives, and have our intern students facilitate these with the groups that we have constructed. So this will be for 15 weeks, 2 hours on the Saturdays, followed by some recreational activities that the mentors and that police and so will continue to do with these young people. So that's in a nutshell a little structure that our involvement, yes.
You're dealing with young people, essentially between the ages of 10 and 17, if I'm correct, right?
Correct.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you see dealing with this vulnerable group, if I may, aside from the issue of peer pressure?
Well, let me share on the curriculum. What's the objectives?
Yeah.
And I want to say that this is homegrown. I put together over some years, most of it. It has been adopted by Restore Belize, who were the first ones to pilot the curriculum. It's psychoeducational in that it is intended to trigger thinking, to create opportunities with young people to dialogue on the non-traditional things that the literature tells us that supports and empower people. So it's an entertainment of ideas without judgment, without any kind of repercussions. People are free to talk about themselves, their community, their families, the environment, their hopes, aspirations, those kinds of things in a real interactive way.
Yeah.
So it's a thinking kind of thing. And the difference with this curriculum or this intervention and others is how it's done. It's not the lecture, it's one that prompts thought, ideas. And we believe that in the group science, that approach or methodology that we're using, that these kids will experience something that they have never experienced before, which is respect, which is them being at the center of ideas that they can discuss and exchange. And we believe that in itself can be a very powerful tool, not only to resist peer pressure, but also will have other growing, if you want to think about it, elements in them.
Do you know, I really think that this is a very fragile stage of a person's life, and especially for persons between the ages of 10 to 17, when you're living with your family and what you know is, a life where you see your dad going to jail or your mom being arrested, or you have family members who you know are in prison. How do you break that normalized life of I'm used to this at this age when you're telling them something else and they're going home to something else? How do you consider that and make sure that what they're being taught, what they're being exposed to, sticks?
Well, let me tell you, let me share this. In terms of working with this population, or say people in gangs, or so, there's the traditional stuff that we have always done. How we think about a problem is how we will respond to the problem. If you think maybe these young, disconnected young people lack jobs, education, then that is what we would intend to provide, jobs and education. But there's also a school of thought that tells us otherwise, that we can do the jobs and education, but there also is that internal, that perspective, the ideas that nobody talks to them about. So that is what we are trying. We because it's another tool that change starts with thinking. And that these people can be exposed to that higher level of learning and awareness that otherwise. And it's not to shelter them from their family or their environment, it's to recognize that is, but also the perspective that it can be different. So they then can become change agents themselves. And how is it? By planting that idea that they can contribute to change.
Just to add to what Mr. Olivera is saying, like you said, that they will beat the kids for the first 2 hours of the morning. When they finish with the kids, then we'll have them for another 2 hours. And the program is structured in a way that the police will have little intervention or little contact with these young people. It will mostly be done by either the UB faculty, CRD, or other mentors. Now we have a host of mentors who have signed up to assist in this program. And the other mentors' purpose is to see how they could assist these young people in things like entrepreneurship. We want to do conflict resolution, anger management, spirituality, civic pride, and counseling. Now, what is unique about this, and you spoke to the fact that these kids will have to go home and they see mommy and daddy behaving a certain way. The environment at home might not be conducive to what we're doing. Now, CRD will play a critical role in this program as well. And what they have committed to do is to offer counseling. And I am sure that through the interaction with UB, they will identify students who might need counseling, or not students, members, participants who might need counseling. They will tell us of those participants. We'll get CRD counseling section to provide the counseling for them over a period of time. And in situations where they find that the home itself needs some assistance, community rehab is also willing to assist the home in making the environment better for the participant. Now, we hear this issue about gang killing and these sort of things every so often. Sometimes these people who have been killed are fathers or close friends or relatives to these young people. The question then is, what is done to help these young people to overcome the trauma of having lost someone? And again, CRD is critical again where this is concerned, in that they have committed that once a member of the mentorship program should lose a relative or a close friend, they will provide counseling for that person over a period of time to assist that person overcome the trauma. Because when these things occur, oftentimes these young people grow up with this hate and anger and cannot wait to reach an age that they can pick up a gun and go and take revenge. And that is one of the reasons why we are where we are today. So we are hoping that through this program, we'll be able to assist many of these young people to overcome that degree of anger, because they're growing up with anger. One thing we need to understand as well is that this whole issue about the gang rivalry have a lot to do with turf. Many of it don't have nothing to do with personal issues. One grew up in this neighborhood, he knows his neighborhood is not friends with that one, and just because of that, this tension exists between them. All of that we'll have to assist them to overcome and let them understand. There is no need to fight over no war or over no color. You know, if you want to fight, you fight over an issue that affects you. And I think that once we do things like this, it will not have a direct impact on the current situation. It is more of a long-term solution to the problem that we are currently facing.
When I look and I listen to what is being discussed here, I get the understanding that it is the coming together of different factors. You mentioned the CRD and its role in the bigger picture. I think one of the things that needs to be asked is there a tangible measure, to be able to determine the outcome of this intervention? My friend here asked a very honest and straightforward question. You're dealing with a situation where you are trying to introduce a new and different way of thinking to someone who may already be exposed to a particular lifestyle, culture, or environment. And then this person has to go back into that specific environment. This is a 15-week curriculum. How do you measure the impact of what is being taught to these kids over that time?
That's an excellent question, and one that we take lots of pride in. We are definitely have built in measures to see if the intended curriculum is having the change. And I think that is fair. We are committed to doing this. We believe we have enough other data, but we want to be able to show it concretely, if it's working, if it's not working, what needs to be tweaked. And I think the truth should be for everything that we do. We do a lot of things, yet we don't know that if these interventions are working. So as part of our UB process of doing things, our students will be evaluating various aspects of the intervention with the hope for expansion, with the hope to model, with the hope to if it's working, let us expand these things, and if it's not, what needs to be strengthened. But the need to know is very critical, is very key, and I support Mr. Chestor and what he said, that lots of this, we won't see that immediate impact, because impact is really the outcome that you want. But we want to be able to map out those little changes that are possible among young minds. We are anticipating that probably towards the 15 weeks, the transformation will be such that these kids the empowerment will reflect, they will start to make demands, they will start to become a little bit more assertive. We think we'll be able to see these things, and that is what we want. Empowerment brings change, and it creates a sense of entitlement. Yeah. If you see yourself as a beggar versus somebody that's entitled to things, that's empowerment. And while people talk about empowerment on a bigger scope, very few people like empowered people because they make demands on you. They expect accountability. They expect explanations. And that's the kind of society we would want to see. And we want to instill those little opportunities among these kids very early.
I think too that the length of the program speaks for itself as well. This is not a 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 or 4 interaction. We'll be having a series of interaction with these young people. And the reason why we make the program so long is because we know that we cannot change the way these children think overnight. It will require some time. And in terms of judging outcome, I think we're poised to be able to monitor the activities of these young people from inception of the program, and as the program develops, we might see change in their attitude, change in how they respond to each other's, change in how they respond to things. I will tell you that when we had the launch on December 23rd, and we had the children in the Radisson Carlpetch room, there was serious tension in that room. These are young people, you know.
We're familiar with each other based on
they already have
gangs,
exactly. They already have their own rivalry because of where they're from. And this one don't want to sit on a table with that one. That one don't want to sit there because they want to remain in their clique. Now, as the program progresses, I am sure that the faculty from UB who are engaging these children in these capacities will bring them together. And yes, there will be hostility for the first 2-3 interaction, but eventually when they begin to do things together as a group, have to depend on each other in doing things, coupled with the intervention aspect that will be done by the community rehab personnel and the other mentors, that will change. I tell you, currently there is a group in the Amara Avenue area and a group on Amadillo Street, very close neighborhoods. The Amadillo crowd can't go on Amara. Amara crowd can't go on Amadillo. And these are 11, 12-year-old, you know, who are beefing with each other. So these are things that I believe we'll be able to measure to see what their response will be to each other's. Will they still have that degree of hostility against each other's at the end of the program?
I'm really glad that you brought that up because that brings me to my question about safety. When you're dealing with this type of population, there is the issue, the very prevalent issue of the fact of gang and turf war. How do you ensure not only that the participants feel safe as they're taking part in the program, but also the persons who are there to help them, the social work students, the UB.
That has been given high priority. But let me put right off the bat, no meaningful work is without some level of risk, especially in this field. And I commend the work. This is anybody can reasonably criticize the police for doing this. Well, I am happy that someone is and that we can partner with them. So instead of a criticism, we want to partner with people. They selected the individuals, they're in the field, their officers are involved. We have clear terms and rules for each of the different players. And we have created redundancy plans so that to keep everybody safe. And while we cannot guarantee, so I mean, I don't know about that guarantee, we have taken sufficient and meaningful steps to mitigate those risks. Clearly, you know, if something goes bad, you know, and we don't want that to happen. But let me tell you something, if I'll put my money on anything, and we put money on many things, right? There is still need for support. We want more people involved. I couldn't be more confident in the ability of the students that are going, very well trained and motivated young people. And I think the skills and the professionalism of the police and the roles that they'll play, we have put in those things in place. And clearly the support will be such that we don't anticipate any major or any violent. But that is to be seen. But I'll tell you what, I'm banking on what we know and falling back on that we have made the necessary preparations to keep everybody safe and for it to be an enjoyable experience. I am hoping that by the third week, the kids won't be expecting nobody to pick them up. They'll probably start coming to the sessions on their own.
Let me ask a question here, and I hope that I'm not being too philosophical in my outlook.
And I have it done as a maintainer, you son. So don't get away. You
I
and
should take up
Marlene.
that offer.
You and Marlene, yes.
So here's the question. What does it take for some of these young men to realize that they have more in common than they have differences?
Yeah.
Because when you look at the stories of some of these individuals, only geography separates them, you know.
Yeah, that is true.
If you come from a broken home, maybe if you meet someone from Kral, you realize that person comes from a broken home too.
Yeah.
If you realize that there are economic challenges in your neighborhood or in your household, then you realize somebody from another area may be going through the same thing.
Yeah.
How do we...
Actually, the group design allows for that. It brings every life in a common space. So they get to share, and that is why we are very jealous as to not to disrupt the group process. For example, it will be very safe and contained with 2 facilitators.
Where will it be held?
It will be held in 4 spaces around the city. That's YWYM, the Youth Department, and St. John's Vianney by Yabra. And we will be running 9 groups, roughly about 100 kids. They have been grouped by age and by sex, both male and female groups separately. So it's the group design that will allow us, and that is one of the objectives, for them to interact with people, with their parents, to get to know each other. It's one of the fundamentals of growth and development is relationships. Part of cutting relationships that allows for us to can be hateful to each other, because when you start to know people, it makes violence towards each other different. Or what you know about them, are they my enemies, or as opposed to, these are my neighbors, these are Belizean, these are young people like me. And we want to forge that. We want to be able to contribute to a positive change. So we are very happy, and we commend the efforts of of Mr. Chestor and his division and the people, because this is what we need more of, not less. So we want to. We're very happy for the opportunity to partner with them.
My only other follow-up question is for you guys to be able to draw a distinction between what is presently happening in the streets of Belize City versus what you're working towards on a long-term basis. I think people have this misconception that, well, when they run a program, a man still dead, somebody just got shot last night. How do you inform them that, look, some people or some situations are seemingly far gone, and we're trying to prevent from the core what can happen over time?
People have always been clamoring that, we want the street violence to end. And this mentorship program is one way of ending the street violence, but from a more long-term perspective. And we cannot give people wrong to say they want to see change now. So as a police department, we do things as well to be able to mitigate the current situation while we work on a long-term plan. And while we had a mentorship program for the young people between ages 10 to 17, we have the Eastern Division South Cup, the basketball tournament, which will commence on the 10th of February. And again, that is targeting persons from age 14 to 30-something. So that is targeting the older groups. So we have the young groups, we have the older groups that we're working with at the same time to be able to see how we can usher some degree of change in terms of the gang cycle. And last year, you saw how the Eastern Division South Cup went. It went well, and we're hoping that this year will be even better. Now, in addition to those things that we're doing, we still do, or will still do our interventions with these persons who are involved currently. And one of the issues that they have always been asking for is the issue of jobs. And understandably so, they have families that they need to feed and so forth. So what had happened is that we are working through Cisco, and Cisco will be receiving a contract to do some road works. And when that road work commences, which I'm hoping is very soon, these same persons who are currently involved, the older folks, will be hired to do the road works. Now, what will be unique about the road works this time compared to when it was done before is that when it was done before, these groups were allowed to work in their own group. They have Jazz Street here, Sopal Street there, Kra Road there. So they remain in their cliques.
It's still segregated.
Exactly, right? So I have discussed with Cisco that what we'll do this time, we'll not have them working in their own groups. We'll have them work together. That way now, they'll be able to depend on each other because they have to work together. They'll have to do things together. And what we'll do, we'll put police in the area to ensure that there is safety for all. And I'm sure that for the first week or so, there'll be some degree of hostility. But after 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the program, you'll see they begin to work together. And with that now, what we'll do is that every morning we want to have a spirituality session with them before they start to work. And once a week, we do a weekly intervention with them to see how things are progressing between them. And I think that once we do that, they will have some degree of comfort and trust among themselves, and that itself will also slow down the gang violence. No matter what we do, no matter what we say, we will never ever eradicate gangs totally. But there are things that we can do, that we're currently doing, that can mitigate the occurrences of these type of incidents. And what we're working on is more a long-term plan than a short-term plan. But we also have short-term plans in place to be able to mitigate the situation as we go along.
Now, gentlemen, we need to wrap up this segment, but I would want to give you guys an opportunity to make an appeal, for instance, to families who would want to have their kids or their loved ones join this program, and for you guys to be able to appeal for other mentors to come on board as well.
Well, I think we have a very good structure right now, and definitely there is a need for mentors to come on board, to be involved in the lives of these young people. We are completely taken up with this at UB. We're happy that we can be a part of this, and those people that will be participating, the parents, I think we can expect some good things to happen over the next few weeks. We're starting this Saturday, and then we're hoping for, if there are partners that want to help us in kind, there are many things that we need to be purchasing. Part of the education will also be about nutrition. We'll be modeling this. These kids will be exposed to a variety of food, cultural stuff throughout the course of 15 weeks. So there is need for support, financial and in kind. I'm sure they can contact Mr. Chestor and reach out. It will be money well spent that will produce some good fruits.
I will say, evil triumphs when good men do nothing. Right? There are many good men and women out there who I am sure can assist us in ensuring that this mentorship program becomes a success. Like Mr. Olivera said, we still need help. We're still looking for additional financial assistance because we have not received full funding for it. I'm grateful to Heritage Bank, Mr. Duncan, who donated the t-shirts for us. We're hoping to get another donation from him. And Petro Carib have also pledged 5,000 towards it. And the most expensive thing is the feeding, because we don't want to have the kids all morning and send them home on empty belly. We want to be able to feed them before they go home. So the feeding is the most expensive part of it. And persons who are out there who believe that they can assist us in either financially or to come and be a mentor can call me at 610-5716. And I am sure that there are many people out there talking. And I always say, no good deeds go unpunished. There's a lot that will be said, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is a good deed to save these young people. Every life saved is a good life. And that is our main objective, to see how we can work towards breaking the gang cycle. And whoever can come on board with us, they're welcome. And Esani, I tell you already, make sure you come. You and Marlene.
And trust me, you don't have to be a media celebrity to be a mentor. So if you think that you're willing to work with this program and help Belizean young men, young women, call ACP, call Mr. Olivera at UB and become involved in this really worthwhile and very amazing project. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thanks for
having us. We're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by some phenomenal women, so stay tuned.